Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom, Brother Naquan, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts. And another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh, Shema Mashiach, Malak Abashar, double honor to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Yahushua. The hearty shalom to you mighty men that go out there and labor and do the work of the Most High, presenting your body as a living sacrifice, enduring all things for the elect's sake, pushing this truth and magnifying the ministry. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent, and they're abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the aquat out there, holding it down in the households, reverence to the husbands, being submissive, being diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous forefather. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to everybody tuning in live. I'm a daughter to a king, Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, Aunt Israel or Aunt Israel, Akwath Yasha'Allah, Benjamin Youngwolf, Yeshai, Yah, right? Shalom, shalom, and everybody else tuning in live. We're going back to the basics. Who are the strangers? Right? Like I said, a lot of these older breakdowns, topics that were on the previous Cold Cut channel, seeing that Cold Cut channel is done away with, and a lot of those videos have been lost. Some of them have been saved. Then we have the WFI library. We have a lot of those videos either in public or private, and you can check out a lot of those Cold Cuts. But a lot of those topics have to be constantly rehearsed all over again. We have to go over these breakdowns. We have to go put them in a recycle bin and bring them back out over and over again. So we're going over the basics. Who are the strangers? A lot of times, brothers get tripped up when they see the word stranger in the Bible, and they automatically equate it to an Israelite, or they'll automatically equate it to a heathen, a non-Israelite, right? But we have to go through the precepts and actually break it down so we can know when you open up this book and you're in the Torah, you're dealing with the Lord of Thawara, you're dealing with other parts of the scriptures, you know how to rightly divide the word of truth. Right? Let's get that in 2 Timothy 2:15. Right? You have to go back to the basics. This is the milk of the word. All right, we're laying the foundation. It's 2 Timothy Chapter 2:15. It reads, "Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." So you have to study. You have to go into the Hebrew. You understand? You have to go into certain words. You have to go into the etymology. You have to study to show yourself approved, not unto man, but unto the Most High. Why? So you can rightly divide the word of truth. So you can have some credibility and confidence when it comes to teaching the scriptures and going through the Bible and making valid points. You understand? You don't want to just open up the Bible and wing it. And you kind of guessing, well, I think it means that, or I don't know what this word means, and I don't know. No, that means you're not going to be able to rightly divide the word of truth. Somebody can run circles around you, man. This is your book. It's your heritage, man. All right, so you should be a zealous man to even want to dive into these things, man. Right, so we're dealing with the word stranger. The first context of the word stranger we want to deal with, we're going to keep it in a sojourner aspect. Certain strangers are only known as strangers because they're not native to the land. All right, I'm gonna say that again. Sometimes in the Bible you'll see the word stranger is simply because a person is not native to that actual land. So if I lived in the land of, let's say I lived in the land of Rome, right, and I went down to the land of Elam and I linked up with other Israelites, I will be classified as a stranger. Or if I'm from Pamphylia or Pathros and I went to Jerusalem and I've been living there my whole life, I will be classified as a stranger. All right, let's go to the book of Genesis chapter 17 and 8. Right, let's prove that. Let's go to the book of Genesis. We have to get the clear understanding so we can know when this word is being referred to as heathen and when it's being referred to as Israelites. All right, let's go to Genesis chapter 17 and 8. And you deal with these Christians and these coons that even have knowledge of the Most High, and they'll say, well, what about the stranger? What about the stranger? What about the stranger? They don't have any understanding. They don't go into the Hebrew. You understand? They don't go through the precepts. They just want to love their oppressor, right? Instead of trying to rightly divide the word of truth. So this is Genesis chapter 17 and 8. Right? This is the Most High talking to Abram or Abraham. Genesis 17:8. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. So why did the Most High say he's going to give the land of Canaan to Abram when he's a stranger? Because where is Abram from? Abram is from originally Ur of the Chaldees. Right, let's get that in Acts chapter 7. He's from Mesopotamia, Ur of the Chaldees. But since he traveled, when you can look it up on the map. If I was on StreamYard, I'll pull up Abraham sojourning from Ur of the Chaldees to Haran, all the way down. He went into Egypt, all the way to the land of Canaan. All right. So let's go to Acts chapter 7. He's originally from Ur of the Chaldees, which is in so-called modern-day Iraq. Scholars would say Mesopotamia, a little bit east of the Fertile Crescent. All right, this is the book of Acts, chapter 7:1, to show you where Abraham is actually from. Right? This is Acts chapter 7:1. Bear with me. And it reads, Then said the high priest, Are these things so? And he said, Men and brethren and fathers, hearken. The God of glory appeared unto our father Abraham, when he was in Mesopotamia before he dwelt in Haran, which is really Haran. So Abraham dwelt originally in Mesopotamia. That was his native country. He wasn't a stranger there. That's the land of his forefathers' nativity. You understand? That's what Terah dwelt at. That's what Nahor dwelt at. They all dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees. But simply because he left that land, the Lord called him a stranger because he lived in a completely different land that he had no origins or ties to prior to the Lord calling him to make that journey. So simply because you're a sojourner or a traveler, for lack of better terms, or a man on a journey or a pilgrim, you see that word pilgrim in the Bible too, right? You see this word sojourner or a pilgrim, right? Due to somebody's pilgrimage, now they become strangers. We're strangers in America. Yeah, we're Israelites in the truth, but we're still strangers. We don't belong here. We're not from Maryland. We're not from LA. We're not from Chicago. We're not from Texas and New York. You're a stranger in a strange land. Then the Lord said in the book of Baruch, the 3rd chapter, How art thou waxen old in a strange country? How art thou defiled with the dead? Right, let's get this in Baruch chapter 3 and verse 9. Right, this Baruch chapter 3 and 9. Hear Israel and understand, it's like hear Israel, the commandments of life. Give ear to understand wisdom. How happened it, Israel, that thou art in thine enemy's land, that thou art waxen old in a strange country, that thou art defiled with the dead? See that? Why is Babylon the Great in a strange country? The Lord said, how did this happen? How did we go from having our own land, our own cisterns, our own cattle, our own slaves and dominion and rulership? How the hell did we end up in our enemy's land? How happened it, Israel? What's going on? That's what the Most High said. But the point is, the Lord called this place a strange country because we're not used to these harsh winters, this 23-degree weather in the wintertime. You understand? And the seasons change just like that, man. One day you could be living in certain places. One day it could be damn 50 degrees. The next day it could be 80 degrees. Then the next day it might be 30 degrees. We're not used to this, man. We're used to palm trees, frankincense trees, the myrrh. We're used to the finer things in life. So this is a strange country to us. That's why Genesis chapter 17 and 8, the Most High is calling the land of Canaan, which was promised to our fathers, Abraham is calling him a stranger in that land. All right, let's read that again. Genesis, right? Let's go back to Genesis chapter 17 and verse 8. Right? Genesis chapter 17 and verse 8. So we got to go back to the basics and clear up these topics all over again. Right? So our people can have a clear understanding when you're on the highways and byways, or you may be breaking the scriptures down to a loved one, and they ask, what about the strangers? They may have prior knowledge, might have heard something in church. So we have to be able to deal with these topics, how to present it to us. Right? Genesis chapter 17 and 8 again. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee right? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's bloodline. The land wherein thou art a stranger. Now you look it up in the Hebrew, it's really saying the land that you're sojourning in. All right. All the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Right. So let's go to Genesis chapter 23 and 4. So now you can see how a man can be considered a stranger simply based off of the fact that he lived in one land and he sojourned and traveled, and now he's living in another land. That is one way a man can become a stranger. And that applies to Israelites. That also can apply to a heathen. A heathen could be living in the land of Moab and travel and live in the land of Edom. He would be a stranger in the land of Edom, right? So your movements and your pilgrimage is one factor that can determine you being a stranger or not, whether you're an Israelite or not. All right, let's go to Genesis. But a lot of times when our people read that word stranger, they don't understand that our fathers are pilgrims, or our forefathers were sojourners, right? Constantly on the move, constantly on the go. Abraham didn't have a throne to sit down in the land of Canaan, right? He had to travel. He was on the move. Jacob was on the move. He was in Padan Aram, right? He was in Haran. He went to Canaan. They was all on the go. He even was in Egypt, you know? This Genesis chapter 23 and verse 4. All right, let's get another precept on that. It's the book of Genesis chapter 23, and I'll read 3 to get the context. Genesis chapter 23 and 3. And Abraham stood up before his dead and spake unto the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. So who are the sons of Heth? The sons of Heth are Canaanites. When you go to the genealogy in Genesis chapter 10 or First Chronicles, you'll see that the sons of Heth originally come from Canaan. If I'm not mistaken, that's the second born. Sidon being the firstborn, and Heth followed not too long after. So Abram, that dwelt amongst the Canaanites, he knew that he was a stranger. Although that land was promised to him, why was he still classified as a stranger? Why? Because he traveled from one place to another, and they knew that. Even Jacob knew that. When you read Genesis chapter 30, it's like in 34, you read about what was that 38? Bear with me. Let me get the actual context. When you read about Simeon and Levi destroying a city, 34. When you read about Simeon and Levi destroying the Canaanites, Jacob told them, "You made me to stink amongst the people." Right? Meaning he knew that, look, we wasn't here forever. That's what he told them. We wasn't here forever. All right. This land, we're new to it. Y'all behave yourselves and move in a circumspect manner. Like you may move to a new neighborhood, right? You're a stranger to that neighborhood. You might have moved from DC to New York or Chicago to Miami, and you're a stranger in that land. So to reiterate, what can make one a stranger? First and foremost, they're sojourning from one place to another. All right. Let's go to the book of Hebrews chapter 11 and 13. All right, let's go to Hebrews chapter 11 and 13. All right, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. All right, Hebrews chapter 11 and 13. It reads, these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. So our forefathers were pilgrims, right? A pilgrim is somebody that's moving from one place to another. Stop thinking the word pilgrim applies to creepy, nasty Edomites who traveled from England and from Europe, other parts of Europe, to America in the 1600s, man. Right? That's not the only time the word, and you're thinking about the damn hat, and then you growing up in school, you got the damn Thanksgiving, you got the pilgrims, and you got the damn hat with a little buckle on it and a suit. No, our fathers are pilgrims. Prior to that, thousands of years before the so-called white man wants to snatch the title of being a pilgrim, our forefathers are pilgrims, right? What is a pilgrim? Let's pull up the biblical definition, right? Actually, I want to go into the Hebrew, and then I'll just go into the English for this word pilgrim. All right? Salakia. We're going to go in the book in the Greek. All right? We're going to go in the Greek for this word pilgrims being used in the Hebrews chapter 11 and 13. And it's important to go into the Greek, and it's important to go into the Hebrew. Right? So I'm going to play this.
Strong's G 3581. Xenos. Xenos.
Xenos. That's where you get the word xenophobia, right? When people, like you may have Americans here in Babylon the Great who don't like, and who don't like so-called Mexicans coming in, right? Or they don't like Arabs coming into America, or people from the so-called Middle East. They have developed what the world classifies xenophobia, meaning they have a fear of outsiders, or a fear of pilgrims, or a fear of refugees, right? That's the political term, or a fear of a traveler from a strange land. That's a concept now. That's more. That's a word that you'll hear more and more and more. And it was heavy during the 9/11 era. It was heavy with Al Qaeda, the Taliban. When a lot of that was on the news, you heard a lot of these news reporters throwing that word out there, that xenophobia, right? And that's what the origin of this word pilgrims and Hebrews chapter 11 and 13, right?
Strong's G 3581. Xenos. Xenos.
Right? Now, when you look it up in the Greek, it means a foreigner, a stranger, an alien, right? Without the knowledge of, without a share in. And I like that. I like that part right there, man. It says a foreigner or a stranger. So we're going to read Hebrews 11 and 13 again, like the Muslim band, right? Shalom to everybody else tuning in on live. Shalom, right? Now this Hebrews again, chapter 11 and 13. These all died in faith. Abraham died in faith. Isaac died in faith. Jacob died in faith. You understand? All our fathers, right? They weren't in the kingdom of heaven. Abraham didn't make it to the kingdom. You understand? Isaac didn't make it. They were sojourners and travelers, man. They'll be there in the first resurrection, but they weren't allowed to enter into the kingdom. They dwelt in the land, but the kingdom wasn't established yet, right? So they all died in faith, not having received the promises, right? Abraham didn't receive immortality, right? Otherwise, he'll still be on the earth. Isaac didn't receive all of the glory that the Lord promised to us and a new covenant within his inward parts. Last time I read Genesis, that wasn't given to Jacob. He gave up the ghost in the land of Egypt and was carried out of that land by his sons. So our fathers died not having received the promises, and they died in faith, right? It reads, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed. So our fathers confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. Now, when you go into that word pilgrims, again, it says without the knowledge of, or without the share in, right? Meaning they can't claim states to a land that their forefathers aren't originally from. Now, the Canaanites, they weren't strangers in that land. That land actually belonged to them. That was given to them by Lot. Not the man Lot, but Ham, right? When the earth was given to the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the land of Canaan was strictly given to the man Canaan himself. There's an actual man named Canaan. Read Genesis, right? The 9th chapter, and you read about Canaan. His sons, Zidon, Heth, the Arkanite, the Amorite, they were dwelling in that land. So they weren't strangers. They had to share in that land. They divided that land amongst themselves. Right? You had the Hittites that lived around Jerusalem. You had the Jebusites who actually lived in Jerusalem. Right? You had the people of Heth that lived around the land of where Abraham was. Right? You had the children of Zidon who lived a little bit farther north. But our fathers confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. Right? Let's go to the book of Psalms 39 and 12. Well, I believe I seen a comment where brother said we're strangers in America. All right, so we have to know sometimes it's talking about the Israelites. It's lucky. Sometimes it's talking about the heathen. Right? Let's go to Psalms chapter 39 and verse 12. All right, and it reads, it's lucky. Psalms chapter 39 and 12. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears, for I am a stranger with thee, and a sojourner, as all my fathers are, or were. Like we're sojourners here. You got brothers, I know in the truth, they'll be in America, and then they have to leave, and they may have to have a job out overseas, or they may go visit family, or they may dwell somewhere else. They could be in America, now they live in Canada. Now from Canada, they live in England. Now from England, they may move back to DC. And from DC, they may drive to New York and live in New York for a few years until they get beamed up and put back in their own land. All right? Let's go to the book of Judges, chapter 17 and 7. So you should get the point now. Right? You should get the point and understand the number one type of stranger that we're mentioning, kicking it off, is a stranger who's simply called a stranger because he is a pilgrim or a sojourner moving from one destination to another. All right, let's go to Judges and give you an example of that playing out on the earth. Let's go to Judges chapter 17. All right, this is the book of Judges, chapter 17 and verse 7. It reads, and there was a young man out of Bethlehem, Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. You see that? So you had a young man of Bethlehem, Judah. He was a Levite, but he lived amongst the Judites. And the man departed out of the city from Bethlehem, Judah, to sojourn where he could find a place. So now he became a stranger. Remember that Levites were given different cities within the different portions in Israel. They didn't have an inheritance, right? The Lord was their inheritance. Read Deuteronomy chapter 10 and 9. So they weren't given portions of land. So you had Levites that dwelt amongst the Danites. You had Levites that dwelt amongst the Asherites. You had Levites that dwelt amongst the Judites. But now this man, he is sojourning, right? It says in Judges 17 and 8, and that man departed out of the city from Bethlehem, Judah, to sojourn where he could find a place. And he came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, as he sojourned. And Micah said unto him, whence comest thou? And he said unto him, I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Judah. So I'm a Levite dwelling in the land of Judah. And I go to sojourn where I may find a place. You see that? So he went from there all the way to Mount Ephraim, huh? And now he's a stranger. When he was living amongst the children of Judah, he wasn't a stranger. Those were the cities given to him. Right? You had over 35 cities, give or take, given to the Levites, man, if I'm not mistaken. And one of those cities was amongst the Judites. But he decided to leave and do his own thing. Because during the days of Judges, every man did which was right in his own eyes. Pursuant to Judges chapter 21 and 25. So now this brother went up and dwelt at Mount Ephraim. Now if you're at Mount Ephraim, you're looking at that brother, and now he's a stranger. He's an Israelite, but he's a stranger. Why? Because he's not originally from Mount Ephraim. He's from Judah, and he's a Levite. Right? So let's move on. Let's go to the book of Acts. Actually, let's go to the book of, let's go to Acts chapter 2. Right? Let's go to Acts chapter 2 and verse 5. Salakia. Let's go to Acts chapter 2 and 5. Get another precept on that. So now we got to understand, you're dealing with these Christians. You're dealing with these brothers who want to save all of the nations, and they want to go into the word stranger, giving you a plethora of precepts and historical context from Genesis all the way to where we ended up at Judges, even furthermore precepts, so you can make it plain upon tables. Right? Acts chapter 2 and 5. And I'm going to actually pull this up on the map. It reads, now there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Right? Now I'm going to jump down to verse 9. Let's see where these men came from. Acts 2 and 9. Parthians and Medes, and Elamites, and dwellers in Mesopotamia. So you had dwellers in Mesopotamia, and Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia and Egypt, and in parts of Rome about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes. Why does it say strangers of Rome? The Lord said these men are devout Jews. But now it says that they're strangers of Rome. Now, if I didn't have any understanding, I would have thought that these were Edomites. I'm thinking about Edomites, or I'm thinking about Romans, or I'm thinking about classical Romans, thinking about, they got the damn garment on, they wear the little skirt. I'm thinking about gladiators. I'm thinking about the Colosseum. And the first thing, if I didn't have any understanding, that came to my mind when I saw the word Romans would be Edomites. But it says devout Jews. These Jews are strangers. Why? Because they're not from Jerusalem. You're not native to Judea. They're from Italy, man. They're from Rome. They're not strangers in Rome. They may even have Roman citizenship. You understand? They may actually be able to go up and down, and you understand, and not really receive that persecution. You understand, in ancient Rome, right? But these men did what? They traveled from their native land, although they're Israelites, but their native land in this time is Rome. So they traveled from Rome and they moved all the way down to keep the feast of Pentecost, or the Feast of First Fruits, down to Jerusalem. So that's why the Lord calls them strangers of Rome. So we're going to go into that Greek word for strangers. Right? We're going to try to leave no stone unturned, right, in this thing. So let's go to the book of Acts chapter 2, and that is verse, bear with me, Acts 2 and 10, right, to show you what this word strangers is. We went into the word pilgrim, right? We're going to see if this is close. All right, so that, remember, that word pilgrim in the Greek in Hebrews chapter 11, 13 was xenos. Again, that's where you get the word xenophobia from. Phobia meaning the Greek word fear of, and xenos, that Greek root word meaning alien, foreigner, or one that doesn't have a share in or a part in, right? Now, this is epidemio, right? So bear with me.
Strong's G 1927. Epidemeo. Epidemeo.
So this word epidemeo is the word stranger for Acts 2 and 10. So you have strangers of Rome. Now it says to be present among one's people at one city or native land, of a foreign resident among any people in any country. You see that? So what is a stranger? A foreign resident. Because if you came in the land, if you came to Jerusalem and you say, okay, this land belongs to me, right? You say, look, this is my family's inheritance. They're going to kind of look at you funny, right? You're going to have a hard time trying to prove that matter. They're going to say, hold on, you're from Rome, right? You're only here for the feast day. You came with different currency. You speak a little bit of Latin. There's a lot of them guys that spoke Latin and Hebrew. That's when Yahweh was crucified on the Passover, when all of the Jews came around, to tell you in John chapter, I believe that's 19, that the writing was in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Because you had the Israelites that spoke these different languages coming to Jerusalem so they can see what was going on. So these Israelites from Rome, they spoke Latin and Hebrew, and a lot of them came down, but they were classified as strangers because they sojourned from one place to another, and Jerusalem was foreign to them as the native country during that time, right? And we can go to the history behind that during the time of Maccabees and etc. But that's prophecy that we would be strangers, right? Let's get that in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 27. It was already prophesied that the nation of Israel would be strangers in the land that wasn't theirs. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 27, right? Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 27. And the Lord shall scatter you among all nations, and ye shall be left in number among the heathen, whither the Lord shall lead you. And there ye shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. See that? See how the Lord said we'll be scattered abroad and we'll be serving these gods to these other lands, and therefore, in due season, we'll become strangers. Let's get another precept. Let's go to First Maccabees in the Apocrypha. Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 12 and 10. So we went into the first way that a man can become a stranger, simply based off of the fact of his pilgrimage. He's traveling from Rome to Jerusalem. He's traveling. We read that a brother was from Bethlehem, Judah. He was a Levite and he sojourned, and now he became a stranger dwelling in Mount Ephraim. All right? We're strangers in America. You have our brother strangers in Canada. You have Levites that are strangers in Haiti. Because the Haiti's not the land of the Levites. Israel is. You have a lot, well, I'm Haitian. I'm going to rep the Haitian flag. Brother, you're not, brother, that's not your land. Right? It don't belong to you, man. You have brothers from Mexico, they walking around, they doing the thing. I'm Mexican, we got our land, I'm from this place. Brother, you're a stranger in that land. I don't care how many hundreds of years Aztecs been in that land. Right? Now that the whole earth belongs to us, but keeping it prophetic, the land of Israel is our homeland. Right? Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 12 and 10. It reads, First Maccabees chapter 12 and 10. Having nevertheless attempted to send unto you for the renewing of brotherhood and friendship, lest we should become strangers unto you altogether. For there is a long time past since ye sent unto us. Let me read that again. This is a beautiful precept that shows you how our Israelite brothers became strangers. First Maccabees 12 and 10. It reads, have nevertheless attempted to send unto you for the renewing of brotherhood and friendship, lest we should become strangers unto you altogether. But there is a long time past since ye sent unto us. So if you are in the land of Israel and you got Israelites who leave and they're going for 70 years, 75 years, they're going, their family's going for 100, 200 years. Now they become strangers. Why? Because it's been a long time past since they encountered. Now they may be unfamiliar with the heritage. Right? Now they may lose the Hebrew tongue. And now they may adopt and pick up the customs of the other nations. Right? So the Lord is telling you, due to also the timeline of you being separate from your nation, that can also make you a stranger. Right? If you from Jerusalem and you out living in the land that damn Lord knows what in Egypt for 500 years in your family, and you want to come back like nothing ever changed, they're not going to know you. They're not going to know your family. Now, since that long time passed, since y'all, encountered, now you have become a stranger. Right? So not only does this stranger, being a stranger can be determined based off of your travels and your sojourning. It can also be explained upon you being distant from your homeland, from the native people of that land. And all of these things happen to Israelites throughout history. We travel from land to land to land. We were forcibly removed from land to land to land via slavery. You understand? We were absent and distant from our own fathers and our own people. Right? So a lot of the times us becoming strangers is based off of the curses and the oppression from the enemy, who has forcibly removed us to these other lands. And about the fault, we have been distant from, or discut off, or discontinued rather, from who we are as a people, man. Right? Let's go to the book of 1 Peter 1 and 1. Right? Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1 and 1. So next time this topic of the word stranger comes up, everybody should have a clear understanding on how to deal with it. All right? First, I'm not even dealing with the word Gentile. We just simply dealing with the word stranger. And not every stranger, again, is an Israelite. You got brothers that say, well, that stranger is talking about an Israelite. You got to keep it in context. Sometimes the word stranger, again, is really talking about the heathen. Right? And sometimes it's talking about the Israelites. But you have to keep it in its proper context. And that's why we brought out 2 Timothy 2 and 15. You have to rightly divide the word of truth. Right? 1 Peter 1 and 1. Peter, an apostle of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, grace unto you and peace be multiplied. So why are these men called strangers? Because they're not living in their land. Where are they from? They're from Pontus, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. Where is that at? Asia Minor. What is Asia Minor? Modern day Turkey. You had these Israelites living in Turkey. Now, if they lived in Jerusalem, or they was from Mount Hebron, or even if they lived in Nazareth, or they was of Galilee, or whatever city that was in the land of Israel, Peter, writing this epistle, he would not call them strangers. He wouldn't do it. They wouldn't be in there. It would just say, written to the saints, right? Or written, to my brother. But he's calling them strangers, so now we know that this is talking about the Israelites. Now you can say, well, I don't know that. The New Testament is written to all nations. Well, the Lord calls them the elect. How could these strangers be actual heathen, but yet still be called the elect? Last time I checked in the Bible, the elect are only the Israelites. So it's impossible for these strangers in 1 Peter 1:1 to be heathen by blood. Right, let's get Isaiah 45:4. Right, let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 45:4. The Lord called these same strangers that you coons, a lot of nations they want to cleave and save to. He's calling them the elect, right? And you can't get around that. Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 4. It reads, "For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have even called thee by thy name, I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me." See that? So Israel as a people, we're referred to as the elect of the Most High. So who are these strangers? They have to be Israelites. Why? Because they're called the elect. Are the Edomites the elect? Right? What about Ishmael? Maybe Ishmael kind of got into the promises given to Isaac, right? Maybe the other sons of Keturah, they're the elect. No, only the Israelites are the elect. They're the chosen, the children of the promise, right? So in the book of 1 Peter 1:1, now you know that these strangers, even in the New Testament, are the Israelites. And there's further context that you can prove that these strangers in 1 Peter are Israelites. You can go down to 1 Peter chapter 2 and 9, right? You can get more proof on that, right? 1 Peter chapter 2 and 9. "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Right? You see that? So now the Lord called these Israelites a what? A priesthood and a holy nation. Nowhere in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, can you read about any other nation of people outside of the 12 sons of Israel and their descendants being called the holy nation or a holy priesthood. When you read Exodus chapter 19 and 5 and 6 on down, the Lord said that we are the nation of kings and priests and a holy nation. It says, "These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel." So you can even go through these context clues and these epistles, and it's going to be plain upon tables who these strangers are, right? Let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 16 and 40. So Israelites, you can become a stranger due to you sojourning. You can be a stranger from not being native to the land and being distant from your people. Salakia. And you can also be a stranger in other ways. We're going to show you other ways as well. Right? Let's go to the book of Numbers. Right? Let's go to Numbers chapter 16 and 40. Right? Numbers chapter 16 and 40. It reads, is that what I want? Come. I'll start at 39. Numbers 16 and 39. "And Eleazar the priest took the brazen censers wherewith they were burnt, it's like wherewith they that were burnt had offered, and they were made broad plates for a covering of the altar, to be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger which is not of the seed of Aaron come near to offer incense before the Lord, that he be not as Korah and as companions, as the Lord said to him by the hand of Moses. So how else could you be a stranger? The Lord is saying, when it comes to certain duties of the holy things and responsibilities of the Levites, you can even be an Israelite and know that you Israel and dwell in the land of Israel and keep the feast days. But when it comes to doing the offerings of the incense and the sacrifices, if you're not a Levite, then you would be a stranger. You see that? So if you go and try to light incense and want to be like Uzziah the priest in 2 Chronicles, right? That will make you a stranger. And you can know that you Israel, and you can keep the feast days and be circumcised the 8th day and have knowledge of the Most High and still be a stranger if you are doing the offerings of a Levite and them offerings wasn't given to you. Right, let's read that again. Numbers chapter 16 and 40. To be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger which is not of the seed of Aaron. So when it came to holy things, if you wasn't of the seed of Aaron, you would be a stranger. Rather you was a Judite, an Ephraimite, all right, a Manassite, a Zebulonite, it didn't matter. That no stranger which is of the seed of Aaron come near to offer incense before Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, that he be not as Korah and as his companions, as the Lord said to him by the hand of Moses. Right, you see that? Let's move on. Let's go to Leviticus 25 and 35. So now we're getting technical. So technically, if you're not of the seed of Aaron, you would be a stranger when it came to doing the offerings. You can also be an Israelite stranger if you become waxing poor, right? So these are a whole bunch of different cuts you could pull up and just throw them off the deck to let brothers know that, hey, look, brother, stop thinking that the word stranger is always talking about the so-called white man you're trying to save. Even the Levites are considered, or non-Levites are considered strangers in the holy things, right? Leviticus, here's another account. Leviticus chapter 25 and 35. It reads, Leviticus 25 and 35. And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. You see that? So your brother, if he become waxen poor, let's say he fell on hard times. He's out there, he planting his crops, and the crops don't come like he wants them to come. You understand? His cattle die off. Some type of, a plague befalls this man. Now the Lord said, when you become waxen poor, you kind of become a stranger. Why? Because now you have to take them in. Each land, or each tribe was given an inheritance. You understand? And each family was given an inheritance. Read the book of Joshua. I'm not going to read that whole thing for you. I'm not going to sit there and read how Joshua divided the land by lot to the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And even families had their own inheritance. Right? Let's actually get one account. Right? And the point I bring that up is because if I have my own land and I can't survive on that land, now I have to live into another brother's land. I'm still an Israelite, but now I'm a stranger because I live in his land. I'm under his rules. I'm under his house. He called the shots. I'm waxing poor. Now I'm a stranger. All right? So there are many ways our people have become strangers in the land. So let's get an actual account of that. Right? Let's go to the book. I kind of read that in Judges chapter 17 and 7 on down, but I'll get another account in the book of Joshua. Right? If not, I'll go to Judges. Let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 14 and 6. This Joshua chapter 14 and 6. It reads, Then the children of Salak, let me read it over. Salak here. Joshua chapter 14 and 6. Then the children of Judah came unto Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said unto him, Thou knowest the thing that the Lord said unto Moses, the man of the Most High, concerning me and thee in Kadesh Barnea. Why? Because Joshua and Caleb were allowed to enter to the promised land, right? And Moses kind of told them that they're going to make it. 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to espy out the land. And I brought him word again, and it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed the Lord my God. And Moses sware on that day, saying, Surely the land whereon thy feet have trodden shall be thine inheritance, and thy children forever, because thou hast wholly followed the Lord my God. So Caleb was given a certain portion of the land of Judah and his descendants, and nobody could take that away from him, right? That's when you read 1 Kings chapter 21, Ahab was going off when Ahab wanted to buy the vineyard of Naboth, right? He said, give me your vineyard that's close to the king's house. And he said, no, I will not sell my father's inheritance, because Naboth received that inheritance from his father, and his father received it from his father all the way back during the time of Joshua, right? Let's read on. I'm gonna jump down to verse 13. I'm gonna get straight to the point. Joshua chapter 14 and 13. And Joshua blessed him and gave unto Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, Hebron for an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, unto this day, because that he wholly followed the Lord God of Israel. And the name of Hebron before was Kiriath Arba, which Arba was a great man among the Anakims, and the land had rest from war. You see that? You see how one man was given a portion of land within the land of Judah. And the Lord said in the book of Leviticus, if you get waxing poor, and let's say you poor, and you from the land of Reuben, or you from the land of Ephraim, and Caleb say, look, I want to take you in. You can live in Hebron with me. Now you're a stranger. Although you are Israelite, you had your homeland, you know that you Israel, you keep the feast days. If you be waxing poor and in decay, and your brother take you in, now you're a stranger, right? All right, let's get this. I want to pull this up, see if I get this on the map, right? See if I can get this on the map. Bear with me, just so brothers can see. All right, the land given to Caleb. All right, bear with me. Now you can kind of see, you can look it up on your own. If you want a little bit more detail, you can just type up the 12 tribes on your own. Now the blue portion is the land of Judah. You see, the Simeonites, a lot of brothers don't know that the Simeonites actually dwelt within the borders of Judah, right? A lot of brothers don't know that. But you see Judah, the blue on the outside. Now you can see Hebron, right? It's like you see Hebron a little bit, well, you'll see it on your screen if you look it up on your own, right? You can see Hebron, see if I can point it out, right? About right here, right? So that's where Caleb is dwelling at. I'm not able to show it on the StreamYard. I'm not able to pull up the map. StreamYard been acting up, so I got to do the best I can, right? So that's where Caleb dwelt at, right? Caleb dwelt in the land of Hebron, and if you were waxing poor, they became a stranger. Let's read that again in Leviticus 25 and 35. All right, Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 35. And it reads, and if thy brother, it didn't say if the Edomite, it didn't say a Moabite, it didn't say that if the Canaanite, it didn't say the Ishmaelite, it said thy brother. We know our brother are the Israelites. Didn't Paul say that in Romans 9 and 3? Right? For my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites. So Leviticus 25 and 35. And if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him and take care of your brother. He fallen on hard times, you're commanded to take care of him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner that he may live with thee. So you have to take him in. That's why when you go to Sirach, let's actually get that. Let's get an actual account of that in the Apocrypha. Let's go to Sirach chapter 29. So you have to make, you're commanded to make that brother live with you. And brothers really don't keep that commandment. A brother falling on hard times, hey brother, hey look, you got to deal with it. You're not hustling enough. That's how Jake is, man. You're commanded to uphold the law and take your brother in. All right? Here's a precept on that. Sirach chapter 29 and verse 22. Right? Sirach 29 and 22. Better is the life of a poor man in a mean cottage than delicate fare in another man's house. So it's better to have you might have a little studio apartment. You might see the mice running around. Or you might have a small refrigerator, right? You might have a bed, your bed uncomfortable. But it's better to live like that than to live good in another man's house, right? Meaning the Lord is saying, don't be a freeloader. Don't be a nigga, right? You might as well have, be hustling and grinding, have your little crib, your little spot. I'd rather live like that any day than be living off another brother and another brother feeding, right? He tell you what to do. Hey, when you're in another man's house, he call the shots. Hey, lights off at 8 o'clock. What can you say? Can you say, well, oh, look, hold on, I got to stay up a little bit later. I got to do this report for work. Hey, lights out at 8 o'clock. You got to deal with it, right? You may want to kind of eat, you like to eat late at 9. Hey, food, the kitchen closes at 6 p.m. You better eat now or the kitchen closes. He call the shots. You want to wash your clothes? You got to wait. You got kids. They got to get their stuff done. You got to wait, right? He tell you when to turn the water off. That's a horrible life to live, man. He lay, and you might not have no clothes. He lay your outfit out for you for the next day. Yeah, this what you wearing. He kind of throw it in the damn. You probably don't like it. He kind of throw it at you. Look, this what you wearing today. That's a miserable life to live. You might as well have your own little low down, dirty, own crib than to have delicate fares in another man's house, right? Let's read on. Sirach 29 and 23. Be it little or much, hold thee contented that thou hear not the reproach of thy house. Meaning, guess what? You might not have it your way, but you got to deal with it. And you better be content, or people going to get on you. And we know brothers like that, right? You invite a brother over your house, you say, make yourself at home. And this man take it literal. He opening up your fridge, he kind of drinking the orange juice out the carton. He say, brother, what are you doing? No, I'm cool, I'm all right. And he don't get it. A lot of these knuckleheads, he don't get it, he kind of scramble. I'm all right, thirsty, right? He go to the bathroom, he taking a shower, leave his clothes on the floor. The brother say he tired. He going through all your stuff, Hey, brother, where you get this from? He sleep in your bed. We know brothers like that, right? You don't want to be that guy. He talking to your woman, Ask him, well, what you doing? He bring his PS5. He unplug all the back of the cords of the damn TV. He hooking up the damn PS5. He moving all your stuff around. You come in from work, the damn furniture rearranged. The stove all dirty. You know that little glass plate in the damn microwave. It's all dirty and jammed up now. And he's gone. So that's the life that you don't want to live. The Lord said in Sirach 29 and 23, be it little or much, hold thee contented that thou hear not the reproach of thy house. For it is here go the point, Sirach 29 and 24. For it is a miserable life to go from house to house. For where thou art a stranger, thou darest not open thy mouth. You see that? See that right there? The Lord said it's a miserable thing. When you're a stranger, you got to go from house to house to house. Where is this law backed up? This is only being written because this is the foundation of Sirach 29, 22 on down is in Leviticus 25 and 35. We read that in the law, that if you become waxen poor, you're a stranger. Now you're going from house to house to house to house. Right? That's a horrible life to live, man. Let me read that again. Sirach 29 and 24. For it is and it's Israelites dealing with Israelites. Brothers dealing with brothers. And now you a stranger. Right? That's right. The brother said you can't even talk back in somebody's house. You got brothers asking for extra pair of boxes. You know? They drinking up all your water. You tell them to turn up. And then you got brothers, they'll come to your house. And then, there was a brother that told me certain brothers came to his house. I'm not going to put the brother information out there, who he is, right? The brother know. But he said brothers came to his house. And then, it was time to leave or whatever the case may be. And the brother was kind of talking to his woman. So the brother who owned the house, and these Israelites in the truth, he said, I want y'all to leave. Because they was kind of being disrespectful. So the brother said, I want y'all to leave. Now these brothers in the truth, they said no. They straight up and down said, no, we're not leaving. So what are you supposed to do with people like that? And he said, well, look, you got to leave. You know what I'm saying? It's late or whatever the case may be. And the brothers kind of kicked his feet up and said, we're not going nowhere. Right? So you got to watch out for strangers, which are Israelites, that you bring in your house. If a brother, he don't live with you, he's a stranger. So stop thinking the strangers are only Edomites, man, and Moabites. That's off, man. You tell a brother it's time to leave, he's straight up. He don't even beat around the bush. He just say, no, I'm not leaving. And he got his fringes on. Now you got to figure out how you're going to get this man out your house. Now the brother told me he didn't want to put hands on the brother. The brother said, look, he kind of just went upstairs. And he came downstairs. I think when he came back down, they left. Right? They kind of decided they wanted to leave. Right? So the Lord said, receive a stranger to your house who will disturb thee and turn thee out of thine own, man. So you got to be careful when you're dealing with strangers of our own people. All right? Let me see if I can get that. If not, I'm going to just keep reading. All right? So, we're showing you again that Israelites in the Bible are referred to as strangers. Let's read on to Sirach chapter 29. Right? Sirach chapter 29 and 25. Thou shalt, now this is all the statutes or other precepts that link up with Leviticus 25 and 35. Just like in Numbers 16 and 40, where if you not to see the Aaron, you can't touch the holy things. I mentioned 2 Chronicles 26 when Uzziah went into that, right? And he got leprosy in his head. Sirach 29 and 25. Thou shalt entertain and feast and have no thanks. Moreover, thou shalt hear bitter words. Come thou stranger and furnish a table and feed me of that thou hast ready. Give place, thou stranger, to an honorable man. My brother cometh to be lodged and have need of my house. See that? So you over there living in the brother house, and brother might say it's time for you to leave. And you can't say, well, no, I'm living here. I pay rent. Hey, look, you out. He don't care if you was paying. Brothers, they might let you crash. You kind of put in on the bill. You might pay the gas and electric bill. You might say, brother, look, let me stay here. Hey, brother, I'll throw you like $500 a month. Hey, brother, look, I'll cover this bill. But hey, if that brother need his house and it's time for you to go, it's time for you to go. Because you a stranger. It's not yours. Right? And guess what? You got to find something. You got to have to start scrolling through that contact list and start seeing who could take care of you for the night. You have to hit up your cousin or your auntie so they can have a couch prepared for you, right? Showing that your brothers in the Bible can be and will be referred to as strangers. Let's go to Tobit chapter 4. So we give you different accounts how Israelites can be referred to as strangers in the Bible. Right? Let's go to Tobit chapter 4. We went to Numbers 16 and 40. When it's a Genesis, we give you different accounts. Tobit chapter 4 and 12. Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe. So why did Tobit tell Tobias, not only are heathen women, strange women, he's saying a woman not of your tribe will be a strange woman to you. It's not saying that you can't marry women outside of your tribe. We know that you can, but in the ancient world, the way that it was set up, like I brought out on the map, every land had their inheritance. Every land, even certain tribes, had their own dialect, and they had their own accent. When you read Judges chapter 12, the Ephraimites had a different accent than the children of Manasseh, right? So when the Manassehs dwelt amongst the Ephraimites, the conversation was a little bit different. They really couldn't communicate effectively, right? The children of Judah may have had a different accent than the children of Reuben, right? The vernacular might have been different. The customs might have been a little bit different. Although they're Israelites and they have to keep the law, things and traditions may have been a little bit different. So the children of Naphtali, Tobit is saying, look, deal with you a woman of Naphtali. A strange wife would be getting a woman of Judah, you know, according to Tobit. And there's nothing wrong with Tobit is saying, because that's how it's supposed to be originally in the ancient world, right? Because the tribes, the family's inheritance was kept amongst the tribes. All right, let me get that in Numbers real quick, chapter 36, right? And I'm going to pull that precept. First, let me get that in Judges 12. I don't want to paraphrase it, right? I don't want to paraphrase it. Why would Tobit call a woman outside of your tribe strange? Right? I believe it's Judges chapter 12, and I'll start at 5. I'm going to start at 4. Judges chapter 12 and 4. Now, if you look up where Ephraim and Manasseh is, right, you see the pink and the green. See the pink and the green, Ephraim and Manasseh. Now, they lived close, but they still kind of had their own different thing going on. So they were a little bit strange. Even the language, when you got into the details of it, was a little bit different. Like now, Spanish. When you go to Mexico, the Spanish is a little bit different than if you go to Puerto Rico, right? The customs are a little bit different. Yeah, the Northern Kingdom, but it's a little bit different. The food is still a little bit different. How they deal with their families is a little bit different. Yeah, they Israelites, they Northern Kingdom, but it's the same thing. That's what Tobit is letting you know that in Tobit chapter 4, right? So Judges chapter 12 and 4. Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead smote Ephraim, because they said, yea, Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. Right? Reading on. And the Gileadites took the passages of Jordan before the Ephraimites. And it was so, check this out, and it was so that when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto him, art thou an Ephraimite? If he said nay, so they're trying to prove to see if you Ephraim or Manasseh. So they said, okay, you know, you look like a Manasseh, you look like an Ephraimite, but there's only one way to figure it out, right? Then said they unto him, then said they unto him, say now Shibboleth. And he said Sibboleth. See that? So one tribe, they pronounce it a little bit different. They would say Shibboleth, and the other tribe, they would say Sibboleth. And that's how they knew, hold on, you're not an Ephraimite, right? Like you might have a southern accent. A brother might say, yeah, I'm from down south. I'm from Atlanta. I'm from South Carolina. You might say, well, why don't you pronounce the word so-and-so? Because you know the way y'all say it down there is different than how he said up north. So they kind of put, and then you kind of prove that brother. And if the brother don't say it the right way, and you could pull his car and he'd been lying. And that's what they were doing back then, right? It says, then said they unto him, say now Shibboleth, and he said Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. See that he couldn't say it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passages of Jordan, and there fell at that time of the Ephraimites 40 and 2,000. You see that? 40 and 2,000. And that's one reason, you know, or that's an example of how these tribes can still be strangers amongst each other, right? That's why in Tobit chapter 4 and 12, I'll read it again. Beware of our whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe. right? For we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred, and were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. So let's go to Numbers chapter 36. Get some more proof on that. On why Tobit says, hey, I want you to marry a woman from the tribe of Naphtali. All right. This is the book of Numbers 37, Salakia. This Numbers chapter 37, and I'll start at 7. The daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession for an inheritance among their father's brethren, and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. Check this out, saying, if a man die and have no sons, then he shall cause his inheritance to pass into his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his brother. And if he have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. And if his father have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his kinsman that is next to him, of his family, and he shall possess it. And ye shall be unto the children of Israel a statute, and it shall be unto the children of Israel a statute of a judgment, as the Lord commanded Moses. You see that? So you have to keep it within your tribe. You keep the family inheritance within your tribe. That's why Tobit said that. All right. Let's get another precept. Let's go to the book of Leviticus 25 and 6. All right. Let's go to Leviticus chapter. I'm gonna get a few more, and then we're gonna wind down. All right. Let's go to the book of Leviticus chapter 25 and 6. It reads, and the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, for thee and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for the stranger that sojourneth with thee. So you have, again, brothers that were sojourning in different lands. Now, the stranger sometimes can also be referred to as heathen. Now, when you go into the Hebrew for that word stranger, sometimes it's gar, or sometimes it's a nakar or nakar yum, right? Like in the book of Ruth. Let's get an example. In Ruth, Ruth said that I am a stranger, right? And that word about 90% of the time is referred to as it's put on non-Israelites, that word stranger. Sometimes you'll see it put on Israelites, depending on a particular context, but a good majority of the time you'll see that word nakarium or nakar, it'll be put on non-Israelites by blood for the word stranger. And I'll get that in Ruth, right? Let's go to Ruth chapter 2. Get an example of that. What did Ruth say? Right, Ruth chapter 2 and 10. It reads, then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? So Ruth said that she was a stranger. Now again, when you look this word up, when you go into it in the Hebrew, right? I believe it's nakar, right? Or nakarium. If I could show the StreamYard, I will pull it up. But I would just do it off my phone, right? Like I've been doing through the Spirit, right? Trying to make it still work through the Spirit, right? So in a blue letter, if you have concordance, you can look it up. It's H5237, nakar or nakarium. Ruth said, I'm a stranger. It reads, foreign or an alien, unknown or unfamiliar, right? It reads, of another country and people, a foreigner from another family. You understand? So it's somebody that is completely outside the 12 tribes. Now, sometimes you'll see that word put. Let's see, you'll put it on, you'll see it put on the sons of the Most High, right? But the majority of the time, that word nakarium is put on non-Israelites. All right. So you'll see that word in there. You see the word gar, like Moses called his son Gershom. He said, I'm a stranger in a strange land, All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 24 and 14. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 24 and 14. Thou shalt not oppress a hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy stranger that are in thy land within thy gate. So you can oppress a fellow Israelite, and you really can oppress, let's say, like when Ruth, being a Moabite, when she came into the land, Boaz didn't oppress her because Boaz was keeping the law. Boaz even let Ruth go and kind of do her thing, right? And go and work in the vineyard, right? And gather in the sheaves and stuff and glean the field. Ruth was allowed to glean the field because Boaz kept the law. How come when Ruth didn't come in, he didn't just beat Ruth's ass, right? And sell her in slavery, right? Because even in the kingdom, we're not just going to kill the heathen. A lot of brothers think in the kingdom of heaven, when we're established, we're going to kill the heathen. We're going to put them to death. But when the kingdom of heaven is established and we are given our land and we're dwelling there, you're not just going to wake up in the morning and slit a Moabite throat, right? Or get some acid and throw an Elamite into some acid and laugh, right? Well, no, we're not doing that in the kingdom. We're not moving like that, right? That's off, man. You wake up in the morning and then you're Moabite out there working in the field and you just start plucking his teeth out and you crack his neck and you laugh, ha 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 ha. No, brother, that's demonic, brother. Right? So even in the kingdom, the heathen that work for us, they're going to be in captivity, or we're not going to, like further oppress them. Right? Meaning like kill them when we feel like it. You understand? And throw them in acid. Right? And just only if they start going off. The Lord said, tortures and torments for our evil servant. If they look at you funny, or they kind of speak out of line, then you can kind of go to work on them. Right? They're going to be strangers. Right? And the days of us being strangers are coming to an end, man. The Lord said in 2 Ezra 16 and 40 that we're going to be pilgrims on our earth. Right? Meaning you're going to be you're going to be a stranger because you're not going to have your own house. You're not going to have your own apartment. You're not going to have your condo anymore. You might be somewhere in the woods and now you're a stranger because that land is unfamiliar to you. Right? 2 Ezra chapter 16 and 40. O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to the battle, and those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. So we're going to be like pilgrims on our earth. What would make us a pilgrim? We're already in captivity, but also we're going to be in different lands. We're going to be on the go. You might have a book bag with you, a shopping cart. You might have a little duffel bag you found, or pockets full of stuff, and you're kind of looking around, and you might sleep in the woods one night. You might kick the damn door of an abandoned house down. You're kind of looking around, hope nobody there. You kind of spend a night there. You don't want to spend a night too long because somebody might roll up on you. So you kind of spend a night there. You find some food. You eat the food. And you want to go. You wake up early in the morning and you making moves. Right? You're not going to have a permanent residence when all hell break loose. You're not going to sit there and try to find the leasing office in an abandoned apartment complex and say, look, I want to do a 6-month lease till Jacob's trouble is over. Ain't gonna be no more leasing contracts. Ain't gonna be no paying mortgage, man. Ain't no going to the bank, taking out a loan and putting damn $20,000 down on the house, man. You're gonna be on the go, like the Demetrius Terry said, like the book of Eli. Denzel was on the go. He was making moves. You saw him in the place. He kind of ate the cat. Then he was over here. Then he was over there. You can't really stay too long in those days because people, they gonna roll up on you. And people gonna be looking for you. People might have damn dogs out there, and people, those senses, they're gonna start smelling you. I believe there was a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie. No, it was Book of Eli. It was the Book of Eli. Remember the woman? She could smell his flesh rotten. Remember the Edomite? If you've seen the movie, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a mighty movie. Real spiritual when you look at it with your spiritual mind. Remember his woman, the Edomite woman who was trying to take the book, she could smell his flesh rotten. So those days are coming back on the earth. They're going to be able to smell flesh burning, right? Hey, I had a so-called job where you could smell, they was burning bodies, man. So now I kind of know what that smell is, man. I never really knew that smell, but they was burning bodies like that. So now, now I know what that is, man. So when our hell breakers, you're going to smell something. Is that cooked? Is that food over there? No, those are bodies burning. And you could barely tell the difference. So a lot of people not going to know that, man. You're going to see people burning bodies, eating it. You're going to think it's food. You're going to go over there, and you're going to be the food. Right? So the point is, she could smell, the damn scabs and the wounds. So you're going to be a pilgrim on the earth. You're going to be smelling your damn scabs and your wounds. Man is going to be primitive all over again. Man is going back to that base, that lower state. Right? So we're going through the precepts and showing you in the Bible how we're referred to as pilgrims and how the heathen are referred, strangers, how even the heathen are referred to as strangers. Let's go to Ezra, chapter 10. Right? Let's go to the book of Ezra, the 10th chapter and the 14th verse. Right? So we have to go through these precepts and break it down, man. Yeah, it was the blind woman. Yep, it was the blind woman who kind of smelled, because the man I think he got shot in the knee. And she kind of smelled his knee decaying. And you're going to get used to these senses. Jake, right now, used to smoking weed. You can smell that. You know when you smell weed in the air. You know when you smell damn lamb. When you smell damn apple pie. A lot of that stuff, you're going to forget about that. And now your nose is going to be acute and keen to smelling dead flesh, rotten, dead bodies burning. You're going to know when dead bodies are burning. You're going to know when somebody's cooking an animal. You're going to know when flesh is rotten. You're going to smell. These senses and these old things that you don't really use is coming back in a big way. Right? Let's get this in Ezra chapter 10 to show that heathen are also referred to as strangers as well. Right? Ezra 10 and 14. Is that what I want? Ezra chapter 10 and 14. Let now our rulers of all the congregation stand, and let all them which have taken strange wives in our cities come at appointed times, and with them the elders of every city and the judges thereof, and to the fierce wrath of our God, for this matter be turned from us. So he's calling these Edomite women, Philistine women, Moabite women, Ammonite women, right? He's calling them strange. So not only are we referred to as strangers, but heathen are actually referred to as strangers as well. Let's get Isaiah chapter 61, right? So we want to cover both sides of this thing, right? Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 60. Slakia. It's Isaiah chapter 61. And I'll start at five. Isaiah chapter 61 and 5. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. So again, these other nations are going to be referred to as strangers and heathen prophetically, because they're set up to serve us and be our slaves and be working in the field and be cursed in the field, right? So they're referred to as strangers. I went into Ruth 2, Ezra, Isaiah, and many other precepts. We're also referred to as strangers. But we have to, again, rightly divide the word of truth. So when people say, well, what about the stranger? What about thou shalt not vex this? You have to go through the precepts and rightly divide it. But with that, Brother Naquam, watching for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. Most High willing you was edified. Kwam Yasha'Allah. Shalom.